Good evening, and welcome to the Dark Path. Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of The Dark Path. I'm very happy to be here with you tonight, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy putting it all together for you. You know, I spent the better part of 38 years driving tractor trailers across North America, and I collected a lot of good ghost stories from the places that I visited. But sometimes, due to strike action, I'd have to take work in another field. In my case, it was security. I worked in hospitals or factories or office buildings, some of them boring and some of them downright scary. So I thought tonight's theme was perfect. I recently made a post to Reddit asking for true security guard ghost stories. I got 11 responses, and I'll be reading the best of those tonight. We'll be right back.
Hi guys, you're listening to The Dark Path, hosted by Alan Mills. This one's going to be great. Stick around.
Welcome back. Our first story comes to us from a man named Michael M. from down in the great state of New York. I may have told this story in another thread, but don't remember. I'm the head of security for a local bar, but it's essentially the size of a small club since it consists of 3 floors. Part of my job in locking up is to clear anyone out who might have passed out in the bathroom, broom closet, etc. I then have to set the alarm, which is on the bottom floor. I had already cleared the building twice, as per protocol, and proceeded to punch the code. It throws back an error message that there's movement on the 3rd floor. Anyone who's set one of these things knows what I'm talking about. But it doesn't necessarily mean there's movement, and it's usually just a door I didn't shut all the way. So I head back up to the 2nd floor, which you have to pass through in order to access the 3rd floor. As I'm walking, I hear distinct footsteps from the 3rd floor. No reason to be concerned at this point. I was just mildly annoyed, thinking that I had missed someone passed out behind the bar who had now woken up. You can probably guess that when I get up there, there's no one to be found. It's been a long night. Whatever. I head back downstairs and set the alarm without an issue and start to head to my car. The top floor has a bay window which overlooks the street where I'm parked. And of course, you can guess, I saw the outline of someone standing in the bay window. Still no reason to be concerned at this point, but I'm fucking pissed. I slam my car door shut while giving the fucker the stink eye as I head back into the building and disarm the alarm. I throw on my Kevlar gloves because I'm ready to drag the guy down the stairs. But in keeping with the ghost story cliche of this tale, of course, no one is upstairs when I get there. At this point, I call the bar manager on his home phone and explain that there's someone hiding in the building and I'm going to need to get the cops down there to give me a hand looking. My manager stops me and says, "Wait, guy in the bay window, right? Don't worry about that. You're good to go home." I was confused, but I didn't want to spend an additional hour at work, so go home I did. I hadn't realized until midway home that some supernatural shit was afoot. Thanks, Michael, for a great story, and if you have any more, make sure they come my way. We'll be back in a minute. The second story for tonight comes to us from Senor Boss. I used to work security at a power plant on an Indian reservation. Decades prior, safety was priority number 5. People died like crazy due to electrical flash and getting crushed. Our supervisor's office was located in a building attached to the warehouse. One night, I went to the warehouse bathroom during my break at 4 a.m. While I'm sitting in the furthest back toilet, I hear the door open. If you blow compressed air at a PC fan, it makes a high-pitched whining sound. That's what the doors sounded like. I hear footsteps start walking down the row of toilet stalls. It's 4 a.m. on a Sunday. The warehouse is closed, and no one other than security and warehouse employees have badge access. One at a time, all the urinals start to flush. The footsteps are about 3 stalls away from me. I don't see any feet. I'm already pinching it off and getting ready to bolt. The footsteps continue past my stall and disappear through the wall, which is connected to the woman's bathroom. 30 years ago, women didn't work at the power plant, and the 2 bathrooms were one long one. According to my supervisor, who had worked at the plant since its opening, it wasn't changed until the early 2000s when they remodeled the building to add the supervisor's building. Then the lights turn off. I ripped my pants up so damn fast and ran out of the restroom. I ran back to the supervisor's office and hesitantly finished my poop there. I talked to my supervisor about it and he was excited. He said he hadn't seen or heard of this ghost for about 5 years. It was a worker who was crushed back in the 80s. Our next story comes to us from Bendover, OR, and is titled, You Rang. So a few years ago, I was a fairly new security guard, got a detail at a rural hospital. No significant overnight presence, no ER. Basically, we were just there because in years prior, a local gathering caused a lot of issues for the staff. The top line of the instructions for the site were, do not fall asleep. It was amazingly boring. We did not have shit to do. All we could do was patrol the hospital 2 times an hour and stare at cameras. We were not allowed to bring laptops, books, any form of personal entertainment. 12-hour shifts from 3 p.m. to 3 a.m., plus a 1-hour commute each direction. Anyways, the rest of the hospital was pretty much fine, but the outpatient clinic was, and I wish I was kidding, honestly the creepiest place I've ever been in. To put it into context, my wife and I used to be professional ghost hunters. We've been into some pretty messed up places and felt some things I really couldn't explain. I've had my dog growl at an empty room. Anyways, walking through this clinic, you get that creeped out feeling. I usually beeline my way through the clinic just long enough to say I did it. And then I started watching cameras. I saw a notepad in a room with no air conditioning flutter pages. Watched a pen roll off a desk, that sort of thing. Shadow movement without lighting changes. And then one night, long after we were done with the detail, we still have cameras at our main site, and I happened to glance at a camera. I see a wheelchair roll forward about a foot, turn 45 degrees, and then move backwards about a foot. I just stopped watching after that. I figured if they had a problem, they'll call. Our next story comes from Acronaut. Sorry for the broken syntax, I'm typing while working. I was working in a 7-story office building for almost a decade. Had a few eerie encounters, all centered around one office in particular, on the 3rd floor. These were spaced out over the years, so long periods of nothing much. The 3rd floor was offices for visiting nurses, medical records, and supply storage, as well as administrative offices. First event was pretty simple. Was making my rounds in the cubicle farm, creepy, dark, and silent thanks to noise-reducing panels. Along the west wall were some offices. Just as I passed an office door, a radio turns on, full volume. I about shit myself. I checked it out and found a clock radio switched to the on position. I shut it off and forgot about it. Over the next few years, I would occasionally hear things while on rounds, always from the same general area. By the time I would get there to investigate, I found nothing. The office in question had a window that overlooked the west parking lot, almost directly over the smoking area. The window was one of those narrow, tall deals with tinted glass and mini blinds built in between panes of glass. Sometimes when smoking, I would catch movement out of the corner of my eye. A few times I thought I saw a figure there, but when I went to check, the office was empty. Other smokers reported similar things. Most people eventually started using the other smoking area. A longer walk but more comfortable surroundings on the other side of the building. About 6 years in, one of the nurses approaches me at my desk in the lobby. It was about 2 a.m. She was dropping off some patient files and gathering supplies for the next day. She came down from the office and asked who the new woman was. Of course, there was no one signed in. She explained that she felt bad. She must have scared the new woman half to death. When the nurse had gone to the office, she saw a light, like a desk lamp illuminating an office. Guess which one? She heard a noise and went to say hello. Standing at the doorway, she could see there was no one at the desk. She stepped into the office, and right inside the door, she saw a woman standing against the wall, almost as if hiding. The nurse quickly apologized, but the woman didn't respond. She just stood there. The nurse got her things and left. She met me in the lobby for her escort out to her car. That's when she asked about the new woman. She described the new woman as young, black, wearing a dress and a headscarf. I told her no one was supposed to be there. I had her tell me which office and asked her to wait in the lobby while I checked it out. I nervously entered the office, turning on lights as I went. It was still eerily quiet around the cubicles. The office was dark, nothing out of place. I searched the floor, no one. The only exit to the building are off the lobby, east and west sides, with a fire exit to the south. The central lobby desk has line of sight to all of them. All stairway doors are one way. You can enter the stairwell, but can't get to any other floor without a proxy card. Proxy card reads were stored in my desk computer. No one had access to the third floor except myself and the nurse. No one had access to stairwell entrances except myself during rounds. Both stairwells were empty. I checked. No one left via any of the doors. I confirmed with the CCTV on the exterior doors. Over the next few weeks, I did some research on the area. I was in Toledo, Ohio, in a part of town that had been farms and fields up until about 60 years ago. The site of the building was reportedly near where an old farmhouse had been. That farmhouse was rumored to be a stop on the Underground Railroad. I'm not a believer, but I was always uneasy on the third floor. The rest of the building was fine except the second floor men's room. During my last 2 years on site, the landlord updated the bathroom with motion sensors and everything. Hands-free toilets, sinks, paper towels. I got a ton of maintenance reports about someone using the bathroom when the motion sensors would start going off. Some poor guy taking a peaceful dump and the stall next to him would flush. Then the sinks, then the urinals, then the paper towels. This happened maybe 8 or 9 times in 2 years, usually late on second shift around 9 or 10 p.m. I avoided that restroom.
Hi, I'm Rick Mills, founder of COPS, Kitchener, Ontario Paranormal Society. We'll be on Dark Path next week. It's going to be great.
Welcome back, everybody, and I hope you're enjoying tonight's show. We continue with our next story. I worked a graveyard shift at a geriatric hospital that used to be run by Catholic nuns. A few things kind of spooked me working there. Usually I would work the day shift and things seemed fine. One time I was working and it felt like someone was watching me while I was patrolling the hall in front of oncology. During the day, this area was milling with people, but at night it was empty and no cameras were installed at the hospital at the time. We had orders that each guard had to patrol the first floor office space within 15 minutes of each other, as someone had been breaking windows on the corner office. At a little after 4 in the morning, it was my turn to patrol the area. I saw a light shining out from under the door of the corner office and thought my colleague may have forgotten to shut it off after checking the window. So I went to open the door to shut off the light. The key would turn, but the door wouldn't open. I called my colleague to see if they could open the door. They also could not open the door, and I thought I broke the latch, so they called for the maintenance guy to try it. When he got there, he was able to open the door. The light was off, but there were papers all over the place like someone had thrown it about. My colleague got mad and thought I was messing with them, saying the room was in order when they checked it 15 minutes prior to my patrol. The card reader showed no access to that wing other than my colleague and I after 12 a.m. We had no clue how the room got to such a state. On the next night shift, I got tasked with patrolling the nuns' residential building, adjacent to the hospital. As the hospital was no longer run by the Catholic Church, the nuns' residential building was used as storage and still had to be patrolled to deter theft and squatting. It was around 2-ish in the morning, and I started the patrol of the building. I found no signs of breach, but I heard what sounded like people talking in hushed voices. I scoured the building but found no cause for the voices and thought somebody was probably in the parking lot talking within earshot of the building. On my way back to the hospital, I noted that the lot was empty. I heard the talking on the next patrol of the building, but no one was around that time either. The other issue I had was that after 11 p.m., the chapel was to be closed and we had to snuff out the candles inside. Even with the lights on, it felt super creepy in there. I never saw anyone in there, but it always felt like someone was in there.
Hi, this is Sam, and you are listening to The Dark Path, hosted by my dad, Alan Mills. Hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome back, everybody. Our final story of the night comes from Demise 95. When I worked nights watching security cameras, we got this one store added to our list to monitor temporarily. It was a mobile phone store in a mall, with all the phone cases and stuff hanging on the walls. This particular night, the store was closed before I started. I came in at 11, and I believe the store had been closed since 8 or 9. The night was pretty uneventful. I went through most of it bored and tired, and then probably around 1 or 2, like a million times before, the border of the feed for this mobile store lit up. The way our DVR system worked, whenever it detected motion, it would light up the border of that camera. Now, it was likely more sensitive than it needed to be, and camera noise would occasionally trip the motion detection, but not this time. I right-clicked the feed, selected the option to watch the last 5 minutes of recorded video, and saw the result of what must have been a ghost who was just as bored as I was. One of the phone cases hanging on the wall had casually jumped off the wall and onto the floor. It was spooky. Be sure to listen in next week when we have Mr. Rick Mills of COPS, the Kitchener, Ontario Paranormal Society, and a future visit with the members of Ghost Hunters of Ontario Supernatural team based in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Until next week, folks, I hope you enjoyed this one. See you later.